Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome on behalf of the Auckland City Mission to home ground, albeit I wish there was another reason that we were welcoming you here. My name is Helen Robinson and I am the Auckland City Missioner. With me here today, these two gentlemen here, this is Detective Inspector Glenn Baldwin of the New Zealand Police. And obviously the New Zealand Police are going to be leading the criminal investigation that is underway and ensuing. The detective has let me know that the police are going to be providing an update about that investigation at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Then to the left of him is Ben Burks-Ang, who is the Deputy Chief Executive of the New Zealand Drug Foundation, who were part, obviously, of the conversation at testing of the methamphetamine contaminated lollies and also hold a significant public policy role in our country. My role here today is to explain how these lollies came into the Auckland City Mission and then how we found out about the fact that they were methamphetamine contaminated, and to do the best of our ability to, in whatever way we possibly can, to communicate this to ensure the public safety of our country and our citizens. So as you will be aware, yesterday afternoon the Auckland City Mission, Te Tāpui Atawhai, found out that some lollies containing methamphetamine were donated by an unknown member of the public to the mission for distribution through our food parcels. The Rinda, R-I-N-D-A, brand pineapple lollies were in a sealed retail-sized package, in a contained sealed package that was branded with the Rinda pineapple lollies. Importantly, the mission only accepts commercially manufactured food for inclusion in our food parcels, and the lollies appeared as such when they were donated. Early yesterday afternoon, we received an alert of concern by a food parcel recipient who said that they had tried funny tasting lollies and wanted to let us know, and an acknowledgement to that individual for the very good thing that she did by ringing us and let us know. As a measure of safety, because we have very skilled and able staff concerned themselves about this, they took the lollies still on site to the New Zealand Drug Foundation, whom we have a very good and close working relationship with. Tests confirmed immediately that the lollies contained, and this is very important, potentially lethal levels of methamphetamine. We also immediately contacted the New Zealand Police, who very gratefully came on site, literally immediately. Last night, yesterday afternoon, today, public safety is our key concern. Yesterday, as soon as I was alerted of this reality, we began the process of trying to determine both the extent of numbers of people who may have been involved here, and to contact the possible recipients to inform them of the issue and to give them guidance on next steps. To the best of information that we have at the moment, that is a group of people that is somewhere between 300 to 400 people that we began contacting last night. We have also obviously contacted the police and the media to get this message out very, very quickly, and have put up posters on all our sites and on all our own social media, directly contacted some of our tenants who had received some of that food, and also faithfully worked our way through this list of people that may have received the lollies. Today, we will continue to contact people with urgency and utilise our partner networks to ensure a wider distribution of appropriate information. Our immediate concern and priority is the safety of people that we support. In time, we will of course conduct an internal investigation to understand if our processes need to change or be improved. It is important to note at this point, though, that the mission only distributes commercially produced food to people in packages. It was a highly appropriate thing for our staff to believe that this was a safe lolly because it was in a sealed, contained package, and that the lollies were then individually wrapped, and it was branded by a relatively well-known brand and producer of lollies in our country. To say that we are devastated is an absolute understatement. We are totally and utterly reliant on the generosity of the public to help support people in need, and it is at the core of our DNA, which is in service of people, remembering that the people who come to us for food support have no other recourse. And at the moment, that is 1 in 5 New Zealanders who do not have access to enough money for food. So our job is to ensure that people have everything that they need so that they can be sustained in their life. It has been deeply distressing, of course, for us and for anyone who either may have been a recipient of these lollies or who have in fact received those lollies. I'm going to hand over to Ben, who is going to talk through some of the details of the drug particularly, as he is the expert here, and then I'm happy to take questions with Ben afterwards.
Kia ora koutou katoa. My name is Ben Birksang. I'm the Deputy Director of the New Zealand Drug Foundation and a registered addiction practitioner. I'm going to make a couple of comments around the what to look out for in terms of the symptoms and some notes of the timing from drug checking yesterday. In terms of our concern at the moment, we are concerned that there are more of these substances out there. We note that disguising substances as something else to smuggle it into another area is common internationally. So we are not sure at this stage whether that is just contained within the city mission or whether people outside of this have these lollies as well. What was one note that we make is that we are very, very lucky to have a legalised, funded drug checking system, and without it we wouldn't have known with this speed that the substance is out there. We are also very lucky to have a early warning system within Aotearoa New Zealand that has meant we have the relationships to be able to talk this through and get communication out as soon as possible. Public safety is very important here. The symptoms for what people should look out for. This is a block of methamphetamine that weighs just about 3 grams that was wrapped in a Rinda lolly. A common dose of methamphetamine is between 10 to 25 milligrams, so by our estimates that could be up to 300 doses in one lolly. This is potentially lethal for somebody who consumes the same amount. If people do experience symptoms after sampling something that they believe could be this substance, these symptoms include chest pain, a racing heart, seizures, hypothermia, delirium, and loss of consciousness. They need to get medical help straight away. Call 111. If people are concerned and they want more information, they can also call the National Poison Centre on 0800 Poison. There may also be some people out there who are concerned, and I want to reassure people that we have drug checking services across the country where if anybody is concerned about a substance that they have, they can bring it in. It is free, it is legal, it is confidential. They can get that substance tested and they can have a conversation with somebody about what it is. You can find out where these drug checking clinics are by visiting thelevel.org.nz and clicking the link up the top for drug checking, and that will take you to a calendar of all the drug checking clinics across the country. I think it goes without saying, but our recommendation is that if you have any of these substances that you think that it is, the police have a number to be able to call with a case number or calling 105, and make sure that you keep it out of reach of children and animals. In terms of the timings, I'm going to say some note of timings here. To be clear, by law for drug checking services, we cannot take and record or disclose any information that could be identifying out of anybody who accesses drug checking services, and we will keep the same in this one. A sample was brought in at our drug checking clinic in Auckland around about 3 p.m. yesterday. There were multiple tests that were done to be sure of what we were seeing, and these tests found that there was methamphetamine in the sample. By 3:25, when that round of testing was completed, we contacted High Alert, which is part of the National Drug Intelligence Bureau, as is our standard procedure, to notify them that we had a sample of concern. Within an hour of the initial test, we also had informed the National Poison Centre, Auckland Hospital, and St John's to make sure that they were aware and could brief their teams around what to expect in this situation. A final comment from us before we open up for questions. Ultimately, police will be doing an investigation and this is up to them to decide. I do note that disclosing substances as something else to smuggle it into another area is common, and this would be worth a large amount of money, and so our assumption at this point is that this is unlikely to be intentional, but we'll leave that ultimately over to the police to make their decisions. Kia ora.
Please, kia ora.
Can I ask, the fact that this person, you noted, you acknowledged them, the fact that this person knew that something was off here and did the right thing, called you guys to warn you. You know, they have done something pretty amazing for New Zealanders, haven't they? Like, how proud of you of that person?
I am very proud of them, so much so that I rang them directly last night and said that their actions had potentially saved lives in our country and that I wanted to acknowledge them and thank them for that. So the action of that individual, the action of our staff member, the action of the New Zealand Drug Foundation, those three actions combined in a very complex and difficult situation, knowing that a reasonable person would believe that this is a very safe a very safe item of food to consume. So for those three things to occur in a very short space of time means that, to the best of our ability, New Zealand can be informed of this and we can work hard to ensure public safety.
How are they doing? How are they doing?
So when I spoke to them last night, I think they were quite moved that I rang them to say thank you and were very grateful. Their physical health was fine in that moment.
Has anyone come forward yet with troubling symptoms yet?
So when we started this process of calling a number of people yesterday, at the moment on the information I had that there were 8 different families that were affected by this. Every family or individual has their own experience of what happened for them. On the information I have at the moment, none of them were hospitalised. The very, if I could say, good thing in parenthesis or irony here is that the taste of it is revolting. So the most common story that I have heard when people describe it or when one of our staff members describes it to me is that it is acrid and revolting. So people have a taste and spit it out. And that process of spitting it out certainly helps them. It does not mean that they may still be affected, or to be very, very clear, you could have only a very small touch or lick of this substance and still be deeply affected. So I want to affirm what Ben said earlier. If you have any concerns about your health, please to go to 111, to contact your nearest health practitioner, or to call the Poison Centre if you have a concern.
Were there any children?
Yes, there were children affected.
I mean, that's the fear, isn't it? That's the fear that a child could die, anyone could die. That's the fear.
You have genuinely said the sentence that's kept me up nearly all night.
Are we lucky that things have been so much worse, that we haven't seen people hospitalised or even dead?
It's a hard question for me to know, because at the moment we're still not sure of how much is actually out there. I think at this point, in the information that I have, and certainly what Ben and the New Zealand Drug Foundation have described to me of the potential lethal dose of this, I think we would have to say that we are both lucky, but also to recognise the 3 actions that have actually supported that luck so that this message could get out very quickly.
The way that they arrived, was it in one package and were they split into different?
It was.
servings?
The way that it arrived, yes, at our centre was in a one contained package. So if you imagine you might go to a dairy or a supermarket and you're buying a bag of lollies, and so it's in a sealed contained package that then was ripped open, and every individual lolly then is separately wrapped. So we have a process for some of our food distribution at our site that all the lollies are then put into a crate, and then a handful of those lollies goes into each one of the food parcels, which is how it's being distributed.
Have you distributed Brenda lollies before, or this one?
I couldn't answer that. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Do you have any processes in place for people who might be experiencing distress from the situation, particularly people who have struggled with substance abuse addiction in the past?
And that was certainly part of our intent into literally trying to ring people. So there's this very clear, we need to let you know about this information, and then to talk through with that individual what they need afterwards. There were a number of people yesterday who were quite appropriately distressed last night, and that there are continued conversations going on today with those individuals.
The staff, your staff, what was the trigger for them to send this to the Drug Foundation? Like, what was there's got to be something that triggered?
Yes, of course. So they received the phone call, a couple of staff, to say that it tasted bad, and believing that the substance was okay, that a number of them actually tried it themselves, went to the lolly pool and tried it. Then when they did, spat it out because it was so bad. Now, the very foul taste and the acrid nature of it, so both the taste and the smell, and also the very strange effect it had on them, then made them think, gosh, what's going on here? Now, two other things are important just to assure is that I'm deeply proud of our staff members because of the high level of skill that they entered that conversation with, and actually the very, very good partnership that we have with the New Zealand Drug Foundation, that we were able to say, gosh, this is really not right. Who can we call very quickly to help us? So we had the conversation with that person about 2 o'clock. So our staff then had that event, and then that process of going was about 3 o'clock that the test was confirmed.
Were they ill, your staff?
They certainly were affected, yes, and were offered medical support.
Just to be clear, so children have consumed.
So yes, we have at least one confirmation of a family, a mother giving this to her children. Gratefully, they spat those lollies out.
When did you receive this parcel and how many weeks have these lollies been in possession?
We can't tell you that because we're unsure. The process of donating, knowing that the Auckland City Mission with our partners distributes 50,000 food parcels in any 1 year. So you are talking warehouses and trucks and fridges and freezers, huge numbers of distribution. We obviously buy amount of food that we have ourselves, and then we also rely on donations for additional items like these lollies. In any 1 year, a single item, we would have literally hundreds of thousands of single items. So you might come to the mission and you might donate a bag of food, and we would recognise your name, that you donated it, and that we would weigh it. We don't specifically itemise the 3 spaghetti, the 2 bags of lollies, the 1 bag of pasta in any one donation. So to the best of our ability at the moment, when we looked at our processes last night, is that we believe it was donated somewhere between 1 July until yesterday. So in the last six weeks.
Are you going back and contacting all of those people who made
Yes.
donations over that period?
No. Well, we can go back and do that, yes. But at this point, this is where it gets tricky for us, that we have to hand over to the police for the investigation, because it's not a mission's job to follow that investigation through. But we are working with the police to do it.
So sorry, a massive job still to contact those 300 to 400 families?
Yeah, yes it is. We tried many last night. They did not answer the phone. So there is a process. If you rang our food bank today, you would hear that it's closed, because we are getting every staff that we can to be working through who hasn't been, to text people, to talk to them, to email them, to have follow-up conversations, everything within our power, which is why this conversation, the media release and the social media stuff is so important. We will try all the avenues we can, and we need people to hear the story.
Has anything like this ever happened before?
Absolutely not in my knowledge or history, certainly not at the mission.
You said some people are receiving medical support. How serious is that?
So for each one of our staff who were affected, I asked them if they would like to go to a doctor and receive further medical support. So all of them were okay.
So how many have been hospitalised?
Of our staff, none have been hospitalised. Of the people that we spoke to last night, none had been hospitalised. Now that's the information I have at the moment. All of you will understand that this is literally hours old for us, and we genuinely don't know how many lollies are out there or how many people are.
Have you been in contact with Rinda at all?
I haven't, no. If I was very honest, I'd say I did Google them last night. I understand that the lollies are made in Malaysia. I understand that any one of you, if you wanted to import them yourself, you could by just ordering it online. And I would have to assume that there are people who can import it. We have handed that information over to the police because, again, that's most appropriate that they do that.
You said something about the vulnerability of people that you help.
Yes.
We don't know, but we'll ask the cops later, but,
Yes.
where the investigation's going, but did it cross your mind that, the targeted, could it be targeted, or was it just accidentally ended up here, has ended up here? did it cross your mind about whether this was targeting really vulnerable people in a horrible way?
I'd have to acknowledge it crossed my mind, but in the conversations that I've had with both the New Zealand Drug Foundation and the police, I think what Ben said before is very important, that the street value of this bag of lollies is a lot of money. It makes most sense that actually this accidentally came to us. I'm obviously not the police, and the investigation will detail that as it unfolds. I also, particularly as the Auckland City Missioner, will choose to believe in the goodness of us in our country, and that if I have to a choice to make today, particularly given that those lollies are worth a lot of money, this was not a good way to do it.
Do we have an estimated value of those drugs?
I can't answer that, I'm sorry. Ben,
I think it would vary. I'd say that each of the lollies would be over $1,000 potentially, and depending on how many were in the packet, that could be more than that. I'd say a large street value.
Do you have an approximate number of how many lollies?
So no, we don't, because we again don't have the package that was there and all in a contained manner. We do know, as the New Zealand Drug Foundation told us, that each lolly weighed about 3 grams. So then, again, if you can look at that package online to actually see how many grams are in that package. The conversation that I had with the police last night is that we're working on somewhere between 20 to 30 lollies. I also have to be very, very clear and transparent. I cannot tell you 100% that it is only one packet, though. So I need to be very, very clear. There is a potential for New Zealand that there is a lethal substance dressed up as a lolly. So New Zealand needs to hear this message very clearly.
Just a technical question again. In terms of what's within the wrapper, is this just a block of meth, or is this a lolly laced with meth?
When we tested it, we tested 2 different parts of it. Both came back with methamphetamine. Our assumption from that is that it was a block of methamphetamine. We did not detect other substances in what the samples we tested.
Was every single lolly that was in your possession that they were all meth? It wasn't.
So we can't answer that because we don't know where all the lollies are. So the only information I can answer that on is the ones that we have literally had tested. Yeah, at the New Zealand Drug Foundation. And again, the police will speak to it. I understand that the lollies we had left over we gave to the police last night, and I understand they had further testing and confirmed with me this morning that they had methamphetamine. We have to work on the assumption that this was a kind of batch, if you so will, of a production of methamphetamine contained in these lollies.
Are there any, and this might be
Ben, yeah.
are there any long-term health risks for people who may have consumed even a small amount of this lolly, and particularly children or people who may develop a substance dependency?
Speaking as an addiction practitioner, in answer to that question, I do want to point out that you will not get high from touching methamphetamine. It needs to be consumed somehow. So just reassuring people on that. It depends, the effects that people will have will depend on how much they have consumed. Like I mentioned before, approximately 10 to 25 milligrams is a common swallowed dose for methamphetamine. It tastes, as has been mentioned, very revolting, and people were spitting it out straight away. They are likely to have to be affected by that substance. They are likely to have a come down from that substance from just a taste, from having it in your mouth and spitting it out. That is unlikely to lead to long-term complications for that person. Would suggest that people would, who are concerned, do go to a health professional to get that checked out. In terms of substance dependence, it usually takes long-term use of methamphetamine to be able to build a dependence, which is unlikely to come from a taste. However, I do note that there are people who may have had these who have prior experiences of addiction. That may be a challenging time for them at the moment, and so I think making sure that everybody who has potentially consumed these has good health care if they need it, and also can reach out to drug and alcohol services is important.
Helen, I just have one last question. Sorry, Dave, you go.
Have any of these lollies lollies or what have been returned to you guys? How many? And
Certainly not, and this isn't important to note. Ben mentioned it, but I should just reiterate, if anyone believes that they have the lollies, the best thing to do is to call 111, the police, or 105, and to speak to the police and do it that way. We obviously literally and figuratively do not want to be touching a Class A drug. So it is very, very important that if anyone believes they have it, they contact the police. They are the people who are charged in our country of receiving drugs.
Can I just ask, sorry, the parcels that have gone out between 300 and 400, does it happen weekly that these parcels go out? Is it every day? Like, what's the frequency? It seems small, but...
No, it's an important question. Food, sadly, goes out every day here, Monday to Friday, nearly 51 weeks of the year at the Auckland City Mission, because the depth of need for food in our country is so extraordinary.
How many lollies individually have been tested?
So that's a good question. Our staff who so there were 2 staff who had spat lollies out. They were taken to be tested. I cannot confirm if only 1 or 2 of them were tested, so Ben might be able to answer that. And then again, I think the police will have to answer their testing question. I know they did take some, I know they tested them, and I think the police will be addressing you all this afternoon about those details. Ben, you might be able to say if there was a couple there.
We had one lolly brought in to us yesterday and did multiple tests on different parts of that lolly.
Just another point that you made was the fact that there are stories of these drugs being smuggled through food items overseas. Is there anything that can be done from a policy standpoint to prevent incidents like this occurring?
I think there are many things that can be done. I think we have a strong customs system. We have a good policing system within New Zealand. We also have a very strong health system in response to this. And I think the points that Helen mentioned earlier that I want to reinforce, having a legalised and funded drug checking enabled us to pick this up quickly. Having an early warning system helped with the relationships to be able to communicate. I want to note here that the people we contacted within that first hour, the head of the National Poison Centre, Auckland Hospital, St John's, these are very busy people, and it is the relationships that we have with them that meant that they picked up the phone when they saw who was calling and we could get the words out there straight away. We need to make sure that our health system is fully funded to be able to have these relationships that happen in between crisis times so that we can respond as quickly as possible. We are also part of a very volatile international drug market. So while this may be the first time we have seen this in New Zealand in this manner, this is happening overseas and we are likely to see more of this. So we need to make sure that we have all strings in our bow to be able to respond and keep public safety there.
Question for Helen. So the 300 to 400 parcels that have gone out, potentially containing lollies, are you calculating that from the 1st of July?
Yes, I am calculating that from the 1st of July. The best information that we have when we did our own, and this is very quick investigation knowing that this was only 3 o'clock yesterday, that this was all confirmed, is that it probably came into our possession about mid-July, so somewhere in the last 4 weeks. So to be very, very safe, we have taken it from the 1st of July to yesterday.
Is it all, and just, sorry, dumb question, but all, like what are we talking about in terms of Auckland, across all of Auckland that these food parcels are from?
Certainly not a dumb question. So we have a service centre at Boston Road, and to the best of our knowledge at the moment that those lollies only came out of our service centre at Boston Road. So normally would only be supporting people in central city Auckland. However, it wouldn't be unusual that someone out west, someone out south, someone out east, for some reason or another, came to us in the central city. Some of you will be aware that we have significant partnerships with Manurewa, Ngā Whariwati and Papakura Marae. So the 4 of us together work as deep in partnership in the distribution of those last food parcels. I spoke to every one of the chief executives last night, asking them to then go and check their own produce. I have had assurance that to the best of their knowledge it is not in any of their food parcels, that in our own internal systems we believe that it will only be located to that which is being distributed at Boston Road. I cannot, of course, give you a 100% guarantee, but we're pretty clear that no food that is picked up at Boston Road then goes out to our marae. So an assurance actually to anyone who has gone to our 3 partner marae in the last couple of weeks that in all likelihood they won't be affected. But again, if they have received lollies, if there is a rinda lolly that has a pineapple flavour, please, free to contact us, contact the police.
In terms of the resuming of your food parcel services, how long do you think it's going to take for you guys to be able to?
Yeah, and that's a bit of a moving feast, if you'll pardon the metaphor at the moment. Our first job is to ensure that we have contacted every one of those families. That sometimes is easier said than done, because sometimes you're talking about people who don't have phones or email addresses. So we are very faithfully working our way through the list. Once that is completed, we will resume our services. I am very, very conscious that Auckland relies on us to feed our people. So I am feeling quite a significant amount of pressure to, of course, pay attention that is highly appropriate and needed to this group of people who may be harmed, and to resume our services.
Are we talking days, weeks?
I would like to think that we would get through most of the people today, or perhaps tomorrow. Are there any other further questions? Thank you for your time and coming here to the Auckland City Mission. Again, I just need to say your role in this is incredibly important in ensuring the public safety of our country, so please share those stories. Thank you and acknowledgement to Ben and the New Zealand Drug Foundation. Again, it was incredibly important what they did in that moment, the relationship that holds us, and also the bigger policy space that the New Zealand Drug Foundation holds, and of course to the New Zealand Police. I cannot tell you that I called a senior police member here, and within minutes the police were in response to me here. So New Zealand can be very, very proud of the New Zealand Drug Foundation and the New Zealand Police.
Just a question for police. Are police currently in talks with Customs about this investigation, and has anything been identified?
Do you want to answer that, or do you want to wait till 2 o'clock?
Just real quick, 2 o'clock, we'll give you an update on where we are. We are reaching out to partners. The investigation at this stage is very much in its infancy, but we are reaching out to partners, and including Customs, and we're working alongside Helen and her people to obviously public safety is the most significant thing here, and I'll reiterate what has already been said. If you have these lollies, please contact us so that we can come and get them. It is a public safety matter, first and foremost, and we'll work the rest out from there. Thanks.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you very much, everybody. Kia ora, thank you. It's a pleasure. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you for coming.